Hello, how you guys doing? James here. Hope you're doing fine, doing well. Well, I got a message here, and it comes back to my latest thing, and you know, it's good that people are being honest, but then you always have to understand why some people are still obsessed with people's skin color on both ends. So here's here's the story.
This white lady is going viral for saying that she misses black people. She had moved out somewhere where it really ain't no black people around. Guess she moved to the country somewhere, and she did this TikTok saying that she misses black people. Also, there's some clips saying that racism is jealousy. That's all racism is. It's people jealous of another people. It's some hot takes in this video, y'all. You are not gonna want to click off this video. Watch this, y'all. Check it out.
I miss black people. I know that sounds crazy, but I am from Georgia, and I used to go to the HBCU, and the majority of my friends were black, and now I live in a small town in California, and I miss black people. There's not very many here, and I hate it. Like, don't get me wrong, I love my job, I love my friends here, but I miss black people. Don't come for me. I miss the culture, I miss the vibe, I miss the confidence, the jokes, the food. I miss black people. Something's missing.
Now, for those that don't know, look, I just recently took a trip to Jamaica. On my resort, there was a lot of white people out there. They love the culture. They love the turn up. They like the way we dance. They like the way we move. They like the way we party. And I feel sorry for her. Because she out there where it's dry and no sense of humor.
Sometimes it feels like there are not enough hours in the day to get all the work done. So invaluable.
Because she out there where it's dry and no sense of humor. Ew.
Missing in my life, and I've come to the conclusion that that's what it is. Okay, bye.
The biggest tools the white supremacists use to control the general population is jealousy. Not just fear of minorities, but fear of minorities being more successful than you as a white person. Because implicitly, deep down, they know that they have a significant advantage over every single immigrant, over black and brown people in the U.S. Because of factors like racism, all you have to do is look to the government and see how white and how conservative it is. But they cannot accept the fact that somebody who came to America 5 years ago didn't know any English and was able to work themselves into society, get a good paying job, and take care of their family is more successful than them. They can't accept the fact that there are people who have come to America and done better in a system that was built for them. That is why I believe that a large portion of racism and bigotry in general is rooted in jealousy. It's not just about white people wanting to hoard the resources, it's
Black excellence breeds unrecognized jealousy among white women teachers. So you got to think to yourself, let's just say you conquer the land. You and your people conquer the land. And those people that you conquer, or those people that you brought over to help conquer, start elevating more than you, and you had a 400-year head start. How would you feel?
It's about white people wanting to hoard them so other people don't get them. They would rather see people of color fail than another white person succeed, because it's never been about success, it's been about preventing others from doing well. That sort of spite is what keeps them going.
This is how I know that racism is literally just jealousy. Because if you don't like a group of people, if you don't like someone or something, you leave it alone. You leave them alone. Because if you don't like something or someone, you avoid them. But the thing with racists, or especially anti-black racists, they do not leave us the alone.
No.
Like, how can you claim to hate black people, yet be obsessed with them and be involved in everything they do? And
The Bible says they go out to foreign lands and do a diligent search, because you know that we was the first people on this earth. So therefore, our trail is everywhere. So this is why you get these what they call The people who be excavating and digging and searching for knowledge and stuff to see who we are. This is why they go out and do these things, because they have an obsession. They
Yes.
have an obsession. When
Yes.
we come, y'all remember the Henrietta Lacks? We just did that. Bro, we have spiritual power, and they like, damn, these people are magical.
Anti-black racists literally claim to hate black people, yet will literally not leave them alone. And you can see this with history. You can see this with segregation era, when black people were actually thriving on their own, and yet white people destroyed their communities. It's just like, how can you claim to hate us, yet want to be us? And be so obsessed with us and our culture. You try to make us look bad, you come up with these crazy ass slurs to call us. There's just so much anti-blackness throughout America's conception that I literally could make like not even 2 hours, like I could be ranting about this forever. It's honestly just insane how you claim to hate us, yet you are literally obsessed with us. We live in your head rent-free. Jealousy is a disease.
Most people don't realize this, but all racism is just jealousy
Watch, she about to cook. Watch this. Check this out, y'all.
that has mutilated so much that now it's so evil. It's legit the almost final evil form of jealousy. And I'm not talking about the systemic racism, the racism that's in the systems that keep black people down and keep them in certain levels type of thing. I'm just talking about the type of racism that's in people's brains and their opinions and the biases they held, things like that. They're jealous of the things that maybe black people are capable of, or the natural bodies or faces that they're born with, or I don't know, maybe even the influence that black people have on things like entertainment and music and even sports and arts, just being jealous of kind of the culture that the black community holds. And mind you, jealousy is a very normal emotion. Jealousy is a normal human emotion to feel. But then when you don't clock your jealousy, when you can't accept your jealousy, you kind of hide it, and the more you try to hide something, the more it mutilates into something really, really evil. It's very similar to misogyny. It's very similar to hating women. Men, the thing is that a lot of people who are racist don't even realize they're racist. They'll have black friends and stuff like that, you know what I mean? But you don't actually look at black people as someone who is is equal to you. But yeah, it's very similar to women, because at the end of the day, a lot of men and women too, who hate other women and don't even realize it, it's because they're jealous of them. They're jealous of the privileges women have. And they're very different things, but then once you cross over women and also black women, it just turns into a whole different ballgame.
Racism is about jealousy. If you think that's a reductive statement, please stick with me. When I say jealousy, I'm talking about insecurity, which is really what jealousy is, but I think it's easier to understand if I say insecurity.
So therefore, the jealousy becomes an obsession. Because if you're jealous of someone, there's something you're jealous about. So therefore, you would try to observe them so much, it's you become obsessed with them.
Yeah.
Why am I jealous about this person? Oh, because they got the thick lips. Oh, let me go get me some lip filler. Oh, because they got a big round butt or whatever. Let me go get that. Let me go do this. Let me go do that. Let me go try to tan my skin and get my skin darker.
Right.
This is how the jealousy becomes an obsession,
That's
y'all.
true.
Rather than just jealousy. Because we know from appropriation that we are very jealous of other cultures. Why would we want to listen to the music, eat the food, wear the clothes, do the hairstyles, have everything, the language, but not give credit where credit is due and not uplift the people who created it?
Yes.
White people are so lost in feeling like they don't have a connection to culture, especially.
But now, can I interrupt right here? It's funny how I just got done listening to a video on Red Supreme, and it's a few other videos. Why in the Latino community, and I heard this from Latinos themselves, there's one guy, he got shadow banned, he's a Mexican man, and he was saying how he was raised that black people steal. He was raised this, and then there's dark Latinos are actually saying this. But when he was saying when he was younger, when he had white girlfriends, his mother was happy. But if he had a black girlfriend, she would be in disgust. He was saying that His mom told him to stay away from black people because they steal. This is.
Many of us who are very far removed from our European roots, and I think the need to fill that space and that insecurity of this lack of culture and lack of something to call our own is often filled with cultural appropriation and the idea that being white is superior.
Have you reached?
And I think that's true because here's the crazy part about it. Like in the South Asian culture, South Asians, they have that kind of mindset. You go in some. I just heard a video about a young lady. I'm gonna do it later on this week. And she's Arab. If you speak Arab, there's a colorism thing, and it's something when you light to you white, you all right. But if you're dark, then you less than. But it's like, okay, why is that the same people who don't think highly of dark melanated people go to dark melanated places? And this is go back, and then they hold the white population at a higher regards, and then there's some white people saying that even though you are light to near white with us, you're not us. We don't. It's not. You're not us. You're not European white. You're not a WASP. You're not Aryan. But yet you have these other cultures who, in their own culture, try to get the white. Tell me something. I bet you this is true. White supremacy is so deep behind jealousy because it controls the image, the media, and everything. Why are they so obsessed with the people who are dark complected? And then like she was saying, why do you take everything that they do? Why are you carbon copying their music? Why when it comes to R&B? Why does it come when it comes to food? Why do you have to make all these things? And every group does. It's not just white people. The same people that can stand the people will be some of the same people out of that I know individually, but they know in their own group of people they can't stand black folks. But yet, like I said, black people are a commodity. This is the truth, And it's like, okay, if we had something to reserve only to ourselves, and we had all the culture, and we had all the thing, and all the melanated people, these people would be they would be lost and bored. And then they were sent to come pay money for artists and athletes to come to their country with their racist ideology. I'm telling you the truth. It's like, why would they say that? I just got done, and like I said, I'm not gonna pick on just white people, but just
it isn't just disappointing. This entire thing is disgraceful. This isn't just a harmless preference. It's grown into systemic bias. Most of them Muslim are subjected outright to exploitation, trafficking, and abuse. It's systemic anti-blackness, and this short, fragile life is what we choose to waste on arrogance and racism. Honestly, come on, you guys. What happened to your intellect?
Hey guys, so this isn't typically what I would be hoping to talk about, but I definitely think that there's this huge gap between what we're taught Islam represents and what we do as Muslim people in our communities. When we talk about racism in Muslim communities, I think it's very important to start with this gap between Islam as a religion and Muslims as people. Because on paper, if you go to the Quran and Prophet Muhammad's life, if you study his life, Islam couldn't be clearer. We're told over and over again that there's no superiority of an Arab over a non-Arab, or a white over a black person, or a black person over a white person, except through piety and good deeds. And the Quran and Islam as a concept reminds us that humanity was created in nations and tribes so that we could get to know each other, and not so that we could exclude one another or rank ourselves over each other. But in reality, I think we all know that that's not the case, and that's not how it's actually played out. That's not the reality in Muslim spaces, and that there's this gap between the ideals and lived experiences. for a lot of people, this gap isn't just disappointing, it's disillusioning. And when you grow up believing that your community is built on justice, equality, and fairness, and then when you experience discrimination in your mosques, in marriage conversations, and in how people assume that your level of deen is tied to your ethnicity, it's so disheartening, and it hurts. It makes you feel like, what happened to all that talk? We were talking about how Islam is so perfect and how we have the perfect book, but then it doesn't translate to reality and what's actually happening on the ground for many people. And I think that's where the conversation begins. And it's not by questioning Islam itself, it's by asking how Muslims in practice built hierarchies that Islam was made or was supposed to dismantle. And we have to be real in this, in that in Muslim communities, whether people want to admit it or not, there is a racial hierarchy, and it's really bad. It runs on skin tone, it runs on ethnicity, and unspoken stereotypes that determine who gets respect and who doesn't. The lighter and more Arab you are, the higher up on the ladder you are. The darker you are, especially if you're black, the further down you fall. And it shows up everywhere when we talk about marriage, when there's family gossip, which obviously is not right, and proposals where being fair or lighter skinned is listed kind of above religious quality. And this isn't just a harmless preference, it's grown into systemic bias, in the sense of light skin is coded as more beautiful, more refined, more marriageable, more religious sometimes. And researchers call this dissonance symbolic capital, in that it's a currency that gives you access to things that others are denied. And when it comes to Arabs, this is where the problem deepens. Being Arab doesn't just mean having the lighter skin, it means carrying the weight of the Arabic language and being tied to Prophet's lineage. And because you're tied to the Prophet's lineage, you're seen as more authentically Muslim. And many Muslims, even non-Arabs, constantly buy into this idea that Arabs are much more religious and more spiritually trustworthy. And Arabs themselves often believe this too, and it shows up in attitudes more than words. You see it when Arabs dominate mosque leadership, when non-Arabs automatically defer to them, in the sense of that they're seen as more religious in debates or in discussions, or when Arabs are treated as the default Muslim in any media. And yet, this isn't an abstract idea. It has real-world consequences. East and West African domestic workers in the Gulf, many of them Muslim women, are regularly abused because of their race. Sudanese, Somali, and South Asian migrants face structural exploitation under Arab employers. And while the world rallies behind Syria or Palestine, as it should, don't get me wrong, where is the same sympathy when Yemen is starving, when Sudanese people are being slaughtered, when Congolese Muslims are being exploited for resources? And most of the time, often, it's done by our Arab brothers and sisters, it's honestly disgusting. And we pick and choose which lives are worth our tears, and more often than not, the darker the skin, the less sympathy we give collectively. And when we look at South Asian Muslims, they do hold power in some contexts. For example, in Britain, they dominate mosque boards and Islamic organizations. And even there, even in those places where they dominate the scene, Arabs are placed above them, in the sense that they inherit and reinforce anti-black biases and are still excluded from Arab majority spaces where they're seen as less authentic. It's a hypocrisy within a hypocrisy. And when we look at mixed or biracial Muslims, they're often stuck in the middle and pushed to the side, being seen as too dark for some, not Arab enough for others. Rarely are they treated with dignity from both communities. And then there's black Muslims, where there's this immense anti-blackness rhetoric that is undeniable at this point, where black Muslims are constantly treated as less Muslim, less religious, less trustworthy, less desirable for marriage or any other socially constructed system. In British mosques dominated by South Asian people, black Muslim women reported being sidelined, silenced, and even feeling inferior to their other Muslim counterparts. In the Gulf, black migrant workers, most of them Muslim, are subjected outright to exploitation, trafficking, and abuse. It's systemic anti-blackness, and pretending it doesn't exist only deepens the issue. And at the very bottom of the ladder are dark-skinned black Muslims. If light skin is considered symbolic capital, then dark skin is, I guess, by default, symbolic debt. The darker you are, the harsher the treatment, rejection in marriage proposals, invisibility in the mosque leadership, assumptions that you're less intelligent, less pious, less refined. A West African woman once described how she felt and how she kept getting turned down for marriage, not because of her faith or her character, but simply because of her skin tone and features. Imagine the humiliation to be told you're not good enough for a brother in Islam when the only thing they can point out is the melanin that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in your skin. Let's deep dive into Arab superiority.
Wow. Watch this. This is going to come back. This is what I'm talking about.
Go home. ICE go home. So you hear that.
Welcome back. It is 12:33. We have some breaking news as we take a view from Sky Fox, which is over the Little Village neighborhood right now. A protest unfolding. We can see from this vantage point the crowd holding Mexican flags and signs. They are protesting the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration, and this is the same neighborhood, and perhaps this is no coincidence. This is happening right during the federal hearing of Customs and Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino, which just let out. That's the neighborhood where he himself appeared in that video to point
Little
to.
Village is the Mexico of Chicago. It really is. You know, Little Village is just like, you know, East LA and Los Angeles. You know, that's their Mexico and Chicago, Little Village. Beautiful. That's why you got all the Mexican flags out there and everybody protesting, man. Listen, man.
Gas on a crowd as well.
Yeah, that happened over the weekend. Looks like there's a significant number of people there. We'll continue to monitor this protest, but we also want to kind of update you on what has transpired over the morning. The head of U.S. Border Patrol, Gregory Bovino, as Anthony stated, reported to federal court this morning here in Chicago. This is video of him arriving. Judge Sarah Ellis asked pointed questions about incidents where agents used tear gas on crowds like the one Friday in Old Irving Park that unfolded near a Halloween parade filled with children. Judge Ellis has ordered Bovino to report to her daily at 6 p.m. to detail any further use of force. This all stems from a temporary restraining order that was issued in a lawsuit filed by a group of journalists.
Yeah, there have been a couple of complaints, and we are joined this afternoon by law professor from Kent.
All right, so that's what's going on. Let's get into this right here, man. I got something else right here. We finna get into this content now. Hit the like button if you haven't already. You know what I'm saying, baby?
I went to a party, and a couple of black people have reached out to me to express things like, Ricardo, you know, I do believe you that the Latino, the Mexican, the Hispanic community, they do suffer from these things that you talk about, but I personally have a lot of Latino, Hispanic, Mexican friends, and they party with me, they love me, etc. But here's the thing. The things that I talk about or that I try to shed light on have nothing to do with the fact that you may have Mexican, Hispanic, Latino friends, a girlfriend, a wife, a baby mama, whatever. Nothing to do with that. It has to do with a lot of things that are normalized in Latin American countries. There's a lot of white supremacist ideologies, views, beliefs that have been normalized in Latin American countries. Ideologies that have resulted in most of us suffering from internalized racism, colorism, etc. Those are the things that I tend to shed light on because a lot of my people are not aware of these things, and the reason why they're not aware of it is because they have been normalized. However, here's the thing about your Mexican, Latino, Hispanic friends. It's not what they say when they're around you. It's what they say and how they feel about you when you're not around. For example, I believe I was around 19, 18
And black
years
people should understand that by now, man. White people will smile with you, but that don't mean that they ain't calling you the N-word when you're not around. out to him for being honest. I can respect his honesty, man.
Years old, and I went to a party, and this party had nothing but Mexicans, white people, and a couple of Filipinos. And you want to know something? Everything was amazing. We were all getting along. And guess what happened next? I guess a black person was invited, and this black individual brought her friends over. As soon as they all walked in, everybody started getting uncomfortable, and one person in particular became very uncomfortable, to the point where she went to go sit on the sofa away from everybody else and just remained there until the party was over and all the black people left, and all that remained were a couple of white and Mexican people there. See, she was comfortable with the white people. She was comfortable with everybody else. But as soon as black people arrived, there was a problem. And if you're going to say, oh, Ricardo, that's one of the racist ones. Well, you want to know what's crazy? Her boyfriend was black. And you want to know how she behaved around her black boyfriend? Great. You want to know all the negative things that she had to say about black people when she was around her black boyfriend? None. You would assume that she's down for the cause. Oh, she's dating a brother. She loves us. You think so? Unfortunately, we live in a society where we think because a person of another race dates us, marries us, has children with us, that in itself is the evidence that that individual and their family are not racist towards us. The amount of black people that I've met that expressed to me things like, Ricardo, you know, I ended up marrying a Mexican woman, a Latina woman, and it wasn't until we had kids that I realized how racist her family were towards black people, even to the point where our child that came out looking black is not even welcome, is not wanted over there on that side of the family. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't get to realize this grim truth and reality.
I can respect his honesty, man, because we've been saying that. You know, white men, think about this. You know how we understand that? White men slept with black women during slavery, but guess what? They still practice white supremacy. You know, they just wanted some of that chocolate poutine. Just because a white man sleeps with you doesn't mean that he likes you. You would think that slavery has taught people that, but what they're saying, man, slavery was a long time ago. Fool. Slavery shaped the mind. Slavery has shaped the minds of people in this country. I don't care that it was a hundred something years ago. Slavery got abolished in 1865. That doesn't matter. White people have indoctrinated the minds of Americans and people globally.
And Red is right. Not only that, you know, in Brazil, they you know, there was a big population, one of the second and third population in the world behind Africa, and so that the Brazilians will go down there, and they did the same thing in Brazil, and they did the same thing in Argentina. So Red is absolutely right, and what white people do. But yet these other cultures try to be like that. You even got some certain tribes in Africa that wants to really marry to white. Seriously. I mean, there are certain among different African countries that the Kenyans and Nigerians, they want to be in the enclave. Yeah.
So you gotta look at it. You gotta look at that the same. The white man slept with black women during slavery, but he still hated black people. He still practiced racism.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't matter how many black women that slave master slept with.
Yep.
He still hated black people.
Yep.
He just wanted to exploit. He just wanted to exploit black women sexually.
And the Arab men did the same
had nothing
thing.
to do with him liking black people. He just wanted some of that cat. He just wanted some of that box.
That's true.
Don't mean that white man likes black people. Y'all crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
And guess what? The same rules apply today.
Mm-hmm. But they ain't the only one.
You know, there's a lot of men out there that will sleep with black women, but don't necessarily like black people. Matter of fact, they have a lot of hatred for black people, but they still want to sleep with that black woman.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Until they end up having children with that Latina, that Mexican, that Hispanic. I've said this before in many videos, but I'll say it again. And I'll probably keep saying it over and over again. In Latin American countries, we have something called mejorar la raza. That means improve the race. And if you do not study what this means and how much it affects our psyche, the way we view things, you will never understand why people from Latin American countries suffer from this and to what degree. There's a reason why it's normalized for Hispanics, Latinos, Mexicans.
It ain't just Mexicans, bro. Listen, homie, this is in Latin America. I don't care what country you go to. If the Spaniards colonized that, a lot of them been indoctrinated with that anti-black mindset.
That's true.
Puerto Rico, Cuba, Venezuela. If the people speak Spanish in that country, they've been indoctrinated by the conquistadors, the Spaniards. But we already know how racist the conquistadors, the Spaniards were. So no, it ain't just Mexicans. This is Latino culture in general. Viva la raza, better the race. And when they say better up the race, what they're saying is have a baby with a white person to lighten up the skin tone so that we can flush that blackness out of our bloodline. That's what they mean when they say Viva la raza, better the race, get rid of that black gene. It ain't just Mexicans.
Mexicans to be perfectly fine. As a matter of fact, encourage our sons and daughters to go find themselves a white person to marry and have children with. Meanwhile, it's very normal. Our psyche, the way we view things. You will never understand why people from Latin American countries suffer from this and to what degree. There's a reason why it's normalized for Hispanics, Latinos, Mexicans to be perfectly fine. As a matter of fact, encourage our sons and daughters to go find themselves a white person to marry and have children with. Meanwhile, it's very normalized for us to discourage our sons and daughters to avoid at all costs to get with the black person to marry and have children with. That in itself is part of mejorando la raza. And you have to understand what this means and how much it affects us. And I'll share this one last piece with you. I had this one black guest come up on my platform, on my live streams, and he shared a story with me, an experience rather. And he said, Ricardo, me as a black man, I had a child with a Salvadorian woman. And meanwhile, I was dating her, everything was fine. But as soon as she got pregnant and she brought me over to meet her mother just disliked me from the get-go. And then our son was born, and none of her family want us around. They don't want to meet my son, etc. And then he asked me, Ricardo, you as a Hispanic, what am I doing wrong? Why don't they like me? What do you recommend that I do? Or what can I do so they could like me? And I said, don't be black. They are pissed off because their daughter downgraded by having a child with a black person. And now a new member of their family is black with bad hair. And if you're looking at me and thinking, Ricardo, what are you talking about? That is part of mejorando la raza. And I need you to understand what this means and how deep it affects us. So you could understand why Latinos believe that upgrading is to get with white people and have children with white people and avoid at all costs to get with black people and to avoid having children with black people. Mejorando la raza is a very real thing. And unfortunately, a lot of people in Latino countries will deny that this is a real thing. And
they will deny it. That's one thing that they will do. They'll deny that till their face turn blue. But we know it's true because if you've been around enough of these Latins, you know that they deep down inside they don't like black people like that. That's a part of their culture. They've been indoctrinated to feel that way. They've been indoctrinated with anti-black racism.
And you know, Red, I believe you're right because I've seen it in the church. I've seen it in the Latino church, and I kid you not, right before we was gonna go into worship one time and one day. And you know how you're supposed to come into an agreement and pray alongside your neighbor? I was sitting there, and this really crushed me. Nobody in the community, nobody come and wanted to stay in agreement and hold my hand in the front of the Most High God. And it was the woman in the crowd told her daughter, go over and hold that brother's hand. We can't even come into agreement. This is how deep this is, ladies and gentlemen. That's how bad racism is. And that's just one of the cultures. But it's in the Arab culture, it's in the South Asian culture. But yet everybody profits off the people that they have jealousy for. But guess what? I got something for you. This.
What if the perfect business for introverts has been hiding in plain sight this whole time? Let me tell you why being an introvert is...
There's this, subset of Christianity right now, Christian nationalists, who are currently very, very influential in U.S. politics. Dude on the left, Doug Wilson, is connected to Pete Hegseth. He spoke at Pete Hegseth's church not too long ago. And as you can see, he's being asked, what do you think of interracial marriage? Let me come back to this because I want to listen to a little bit of this in a second. Let me just show you some of the other people that Doug Wilson is connected to, in addition to Pete Hegseth. There's this guy right here. I believe this guy's name is Brian Sauve, S-A-U-V-E.
Let's say that somebody was coming into our church and they're black, and would they be eligible for membership in our church? Yes, they of course they would. They'd be eligible for membership in our church. But would they be permitted to participate in, embody, and practice what I would call black culture generally in our church? The answer is absolutely not. Why?
What is black culture in this guy's mind?
Because the characteristics that mark black culture as a generalization, in the same way Paul's talking about Cretans on Crete, they are evil, murderous, violent, bestial people.
That is psychotic. Black people are evil, murderous, bestial, violent people. Is that what he said? That is straight up fucking evil. How do these people justify such an insane, disturbing, vile belief? Seriously.
About Cretans on Crete.
He says black people are Cretans.
They are evil, murderous, violent, bestial people. They steal, they kill, they destroy, they look like Satan in how they act.
They look like Satan in how they act. Well, why didn't you say they act like Satan then? Why did you say they look like Satan? This is pure, unadulterated racism, right? How could he possibly spin this to be anything other than what it is? These people always have some kind of a justification or an explanation or an excuse for why they feel comfortable coming out and saying some like this. But what could his explanation possibly be? You just said black people are violent, evil Cretans who look like Satan.
They are sinful to the core. They have besetting sins that are like fatherlessness, sexual immorality. They children at a high rate.
Who the you saying that black people are like this? Are you serious? In a second, he's about to get to the idea that black people are more violent. And that's a common talking point. He's about to repeat 1350. 1350. It's a racist dog whistle. Not even a dog whistle. It's just a racist talking point, I guess. 13% of the population commits 50% of the violent crimes or murders or whatever. 13%, of course, being the black population. First of all, that number is cherry-picked to hell. Why did you pick that very specific number, or that very specific statistic? And second, there is a disparity between the black community and the white community in the United States specifically. Now, that can be due to one of two reasons. It's either because black people have been subjected to social problems. They don't have generational wealth. Poverty is the number one leading cause or correlated condition or whatever with crime. If you're impoverished, you're probably going to commit crime. So, number one, it could be social problems caused by poverty or caused by the conditions that the black community has lived in the United States. Or, number two, it could be genetic. If it's social, if it's societal, it can be fixed. We can give them reparations. We can try to rise the communities up out of poverty. We can do programs to try to stimulate, the black communities economically and community building and all that stuff. If it's social, it can be fixed. If you think it's genetic, you're a Nazi. Simple as that. It doesn't get more clear cut. Mm-hmm. That's what Nazis believed. Mm-hmm. Nazis believed that black people were just genetically inferior. Mm-hmm. And I gotta tell you, I'm not hearing anything to indicate to me that this guy thinks that it's a social problem. He's calling black people violent, evil, they look like Satan, and all this other stuff.
You look like
This is
Satan.
a pretty clear-cut case of a guy being a Nazi, right? Is that fair to say, you think?
Mm-hmm.
All of any criminal statistic that you could look at, almost pretty much without exception, they excel at them. Black culture.
Anyway, that is Brian Salva or something, I think. Listen to his buddy here.
The actual number of blacks who are committing murder is more than whites. And whites are...
Again, that's a cherry-picked number. Why did you pick that very specific thing,
Right.
for one? And
Right.
for another thing, it's either social or it's genetic. And we know what they believe. It's pretty obvious, right?
Significantly greater, 60% compared to 13% percentage of the population. Yeah.
So if you take that, then you took a law like Deuteronomy 21, which is a just law that God enacted through Moses. The law was that if you had a rebellious son, you have a child they're coming up into their manhood, and they're rebellious, they don't listen. He lists some characteristics, and even though they're disciplined, they will not turn. He says the fathers to bring them out into the town square. This is a rebellious son, and then they stone him to death.
So he has just walked his way into murdering black people. He has just justified murdering black people. That is f***ing psychotic.
Kill him.
And an armed robber would certainly be one of those.
Oh, absolutely. Armed robber, all the ghetto
violent
culture,
crime.
All the ghetto culture, he says. All the ghetto culture.
Typically take ghetto culture, it would describe this to a T. If you did that over 3 generations, how much violent crime would you have in the 3rd and 4th generation? Much, much less.
That's just factually not how it works. Again, poverty is the #1 indicator for crime. They're correlated with each other. You want to stop crime, stop poverty. And again, there are a billion ways that you can go about doing that. Also, retributive justice, punishing people like this, doesn't actually work. It doesn't do what he thinks it's going to do. This is brainless. This is brain rot. This is just him coming up with an idea and for absolutely no reason whatsoever believing that it's the correct idea about how to handle it. Remember, I started this by talking about interracial marriage. We'll come back to this.
Confidence is not a mindset. It's an achievement. In the GMC Sierra...
Remember, I started this by talking about interracial marriage. We'll come back to this. Keep that in the back of your head. By the way, guys, check out my new shop, Owen Morgan Duck.
But I'm going to say this right quick. You see the mentality of where this come from, how other people pick up on racism, prejudice. You see how the way it does? You see how individuals that correlate with this. And this come out of other communities. It's not just white people. That they're white individuals. Because this guy, he's showing how ignorant them guys are. But this is coming down to the different cultures. And you have to understand this. That's why black people, when they hear stuff like this, that's why they didn't come out. And when it came to the ICE and all that stuff, they was not coming out. Because had they heard stuff like this from not only this jerk, these jerks on the last one, but the other people I put in the video, and what the guy was talking about, the La Raza, burying of the racist, the white. You have the Arab Americans saying, Arab woman of color saying how supremacy. This is why black people. What is our opinion? What does our opinion count? When this is what you think. This is why we're divided. This is why some black people are standoffish. Because, and then some of us who have a God-loving heart to come to approach these cultures, we get shut down and get shut out. We don't have an ill will to say about none of these other cultures. We don't. We don't like it when somebody, but that be anybody. I mean, we don't have a hatred in our bone. But you see how white supremacy, the ideology jumped in these different cultures? It jumped in the Arab culture, South Asian culture, and among some Asian culture. In the Latino culture, what did we do to these people? Not one thing. It's something deep rooted. But the supremacy of what whiteness did correlate this from generation after generation throughout certain parts of the world. Even the people in the land that they live at that speak Spanish and these other some of these, Arabic culture and everything. What did we do to these people? Nothing. And yet, this is what they say. And then it's like, don't you know God made the whole human race? Who told you to think like this? Who put that plan in your brain? About a group of people who would never, if you come into the environment of black people, of impoverished people, like any people, it's unfortunately some things it would happen. There's some things, if like he says, a poverty issue. But it's not that the whole race, you have a couple bad experiences with someone of a different race and now you want to attack the whole entire race. We have never done anything to Latino people. Most Latino people we don't ever do. What do we have to do with the some of these Arabs, whatever, white Arabs? Nothing. But yet they in the black community, some of them, with their stores. And I'm not saying that all Arabs are like that. But this is what's going on. But they do go to a mosque. And they are over in parts of Africa and probably down in the Caribbean. Why do you put your place if you don't like the people? Why do you want to make merchandise and money off of the people? This is why, some black Americans, I can't speak for every black American, that's why they want to delineate from people. And now it pushed us to, this is when it came down to the voting. We saw all these groups were saying, that's why they didn't want, and then they ran the TikTok, start attacking us. These different groups start attacking black Americans. But black Americans had to push back and say, hey, we told you what it was going to do. Now you're experiencing what some people are saying. And this is not just to black people. That's just the first. But if we're taken out of the occasion, they're coming after you. And now you're seeing it come after the Latin. The Venezuelans found out, the Mexicans found out, the Jamaicans found out, the Nigerians found out, the Haitians found out. Everybody's finding out. Some Asians find out. Some South Asian men come out. Who are they getting rid of out of the country? Who get out of America? They getting rid of you. And then they attack. And then some of them went on TikTok and said, you need to ship out these black Americans. Some of them even said, and I'm about to play a video. How are they going to ship out the people who've been here for close to 500 years? But you think it's about status and class. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do, we've been telling you, it's about the skin. No matter if you're a white Latino, a white Arab, a white South Asian, they don't care. But yet, you have something against the people that look like among your culture. Just like someone that look like that's similar to me, that speak your language, your culture. Some of you do. Now you find out, and it's a Trump administration, he don't give a darn. Now you find out it ain't about class. You've been conditioned. And my Hispanic brother exposed that out. And now you're shocked. Like the Cubans. And the Venezuelans. And the light to white. Whatever. We told you. You're going to get the same treatment. And guess who's probably allowing this to happen? The Most High. Because he still saw what you did. You try to play the totem pole, and some people play in most cultures. But now, what you've done to people is being done right back at you by saying something that's afflicting people that look like me. and you don't like it. And you're trying to find someone to take some of these people, go like some YouTubers that return this sick attack. First thing they attacked the black Americans who had nothing to do and don't have no stands. Who's in majority, even though there are black Americans that even on the Democrat side is trying to fight for these people. In Chicago, Brandon John, a black man trying to defend illegal immigrants from Latin America. The same Latin American people. Karen Bass. We defend it. These are on the Democrat side. I'm not. You can see it, and Trump is bucking at them, and they take a side for you, but at the same time, long as you get you in. Now you see why some black Americans didn't want to get out there when it came to this protest. Now you see why. That's why. And they're going after some Arab Americans. They don't care. You don't understand America. You think you be a part of the system because you've been told in your mind it's about the skin. It's not about the skin. It's about the way it's set up. The European looking heritage. You might look similar, but you're not. You got a different accent. We all in this together. And now when you come back to the same people you'd abused and dogged out, and you don't think black Americans was going to find this out? You didn't think that we was going to know about this. He had to come, he had to show it. Shout out to Red Supreme. We told you. So, black men, when you pick your wife, make sure she has the love of God in her. Black women, when you pick your mate outside your race, you make sure he loves you. Let God show you. This is a message in this. Before you see, because you hear what Red was saying, what the man was saying about his wife, his family. And when it comes to a black person, you got to be strong. Because interracial, the white doctrine has been corrupted through the land, have even told other nations to stay away from us. Stay away from our genetics. Stay away from our whatever. They're telling you. This ain't about separation. This ain't about hate. Who's hating? We pointing it out. This is the injustice. This is what has been told. I've seen this in church. I come with the spirit of Christ in me, but I have brothers, some of them, who can't accept me. Not all of them, but some can accept me in front of the face of the Most High God through His Son Yeshua, Jesus. We don't want to talk about that. And we act like and then here's the common sense thing. What you said about me, I may not know Spanish, but the God Almighty, but they never thought about this, y'all. If they read in the Bible during Pentecost, didn't the Holy Spirit come down and speak every language in the land? Right. So when you speak out of your brother in your language, the Holy Spirit knows what you said. I may not know what you say, but the Holy Spirit does. So think about that. So someone who are like that, think about it. And you're going to have to stand before Christ with that bias. All of the nations against us. Someone's going to be called out individually. Not on the whole, but some of these individuals who got this racism prejudice, start with these two idiots that the guy pointed out. They're going to hell with the hatred in their heart and envious and jealousy. Ain't that something? You can't accept a group of people on the planet who did nothing to you. Anyway, y'all, I hope you let this be a lesson. Get away from the ignorance, people. Let's come together. Get away from people that keep this mindset. Don't let it affect your spirit. Keep your head up, black men, black women, and others in any language. Take care, bless you on the next video.